Merry New Year! Ha 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 ha! You get 5 bonus points if you can tell me what movie that line is from. Here's what's coming up next on the 2024 year in review from Holy Smoke, Cigars, and Spirituality. I don't understand why these niggas feel the need to do this over and over again, but here we go.
This genre of Christianity, we're mixing Bible with sage and witchcraft and all type of demonic stuff.
How do y'all define demonic? It can't be based on the fruit of the practice, because you're just making shit up. Is it demonic if it's not Christian? Because you call everything demonic you don't like.
And when Jesus was born, they didn't bring Jesus Bibles. They brought frankincense and myrrh and oils and all of these other things as gifts.
I have never seen it before. This genre of Christianity wants prophecy, and we want to interpret what your birthday sign is. Y'all don't want to have my kind of church.
I just want to know what the man of God gonna preach for Christmas, because he can't talk about the wise men. He can't talk about how they found baby Jesus. He can't talk about none of that. He can't talk about what they brought as gifts. He can't talk about how they found him. Weren't they following the stars and the moon?
But those were authorized stars. That's
Are y'all really reading the Bible? You can't be.
If you're wondering, shouldn't the year in review episode be released before the end of the year? Short answer, ideally. But we had a lot going on at the end of the year, so we weren't able to make it happen. However, the people subscribed to our Patreon have been watching this episode, including the pre-show, since December 13th. In the pre-show, which you can only access in Patreon, we discussed CeCe Winans lecturing folk about cussing. We paid homage to our recent ancestor, Nikki Giovanni. And we discussed our reactions to Jamie Foxx's special, where he said that God blessed him with a stroke. If you want to watch the replay, you can either subscribe to our Patreon or you can purchase the recording a la carte, also from our Patreon. The link is in the show notes. Now, if you keep up with pop culture and social media influencers, the name B. Simone might ring a bell. She's a controversial figure who kind of shape shifts from one hustle to another as she chases the bag. Well, last week she made some derogatory remarks about people in the spiritualist community. It appears that her new hustle is fundamentalist Christian influencer. I went live in Patreon last week to unpack her commentary and share some red flags about the shift in her content focus. Here's a quick clip of the live stream called B. Simone's New Hustle.
I don't give a damn about what the horoscope say about Aries. What does Matthew 2 and 2 say?
It says that astrologers went and found Jesus by following stars. That's what it says. I can't. Y'all know by now I don't play about harmful theology, and I'm no respecter of persons. If you promote harmful, divisive theology, in the words of our Lord and slanderer, Stephen Thurston, your ass will get dragged. If you want to watch the replay of that entire 60-minute live stream, you can either subscribe to our Patreon or you can purchase the recording a la carte, also from our Patreon. The link is in the show notes. Our first recording of this year will actually be about B. Simone and binary thinking. Our good sis, Sunny Day Jones, is going to be a part of this conversation. Here's what Sunny Day Jones had to say on TikTok and Instagram in response to B. Simone's rhetoric.
I cannot go into 2025 with people who are still looking forward to their daily horoscope. Sage, do you know the Bible?
Over My Dead Body, will we bring back this as the primary spiritual messaging for Black women and girls? Let me tell you something. Over my dead body, okay? This side of 10 years ago, I was laying on the floor of my apartment in the middle of a breakdown because I was consuming a lot of this messaging and content, and I did not understand why God wanted me to feel so bad about myself. I remember that moment. I also remember the exact moment that I could have chosen to take my talents in that direction. I knew then, like I still do, that I have a spiritual gift of reaching and teaching people, and I could either use that gift, use social media for social change, to teach people about history, talk about the past in a way that makes people feel less alone in the present, or I could have used this gift to tell Black women to pull their skirts down and stop burning sage, because apparently that's the only messages that God gives the influencers to give to Black women, and I'm starting to wonder why. But I made a different choice. And I have so many more things that I want to talk about this conservative Christian rebrand that a lot of content creators seem to be on right now. I do not want to cast doubt on anybody's spiritual journey, but I will always question the ethics of a spiritual journey being turned into content. That doesn't sound like a return to Christ. That sounds like a rebrand. Like I said, I got a lot more to say, but for now, you need to know that there are alternative perspectives, that that's not the only way to be, that that's not the only thing that God says to Black women, because it's 2025 now.
All right, y'all. This year in review episode was a lot of fun because we did a round robin of Reaching for the Stars segments. If you've been following us for a while, you know that we do one Reaching for the Stars segment on virtually every episode. Well, on this episode, we did 3. I'm joined by Pamela, Tierney, and Rich Auntie for this convo. So you know what to do. Pull up a chair, light a stick if you want, pour a dram if you please, as we deconstruct harmful theology and build beloved community one cigar at a time. Happy New Year. Let's get to it. All right, y'all. We're back. It's the last show of 2024. It's been a phenomenal year. I was actually looking back over some of the things we've done this year and how much the show has grown during the course of the year. And I'm really proud of that, like particularly how we've grown on YouTube. We have like a audience that's growing on YouTube now who watches the podcast that we released every couple of weeks. The content that we've been talking about, I feel like the show has really, really grown this year. So I just want to give everybody on the show a hand. And in true TFC fashion, got to give you the one rule before we do anything. And I'm going to go ahead and do it this time around. The one rule at Holy Smokes and the one rule at the faith community is that we honor each other's lived experiences and we don't uplift theories over what people have actually lived. So what I tell people is that when you have a theory and you meet somebody in the ecosystem and their lived experience contradicts your theory, then take that as an opportunity to learn from what they have lived. And another word for theory is doctrine. Theology. If your theology contradicts somebody's lived experience, then take that as an opportunity to learn from what they have lived. And that comes from Greatest Commandment Theology. I wrote about it in my book, Breaking All the Rules. And it says that your love for God is displayed through how you love your neighbor, which is an extension of how you love yourself. Therefore, you can't fully love God if you don't love your neighbor. And you can't fully love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. I've said it a million times. I'll say it again. Self-love is at the core of the gospel. Self-love is at the core of the gospel. Self-love is at the core of the gospel. And that is not uniquely a Christian concept. That's not uniquely a Christian concept. So, for real, that's the one rule here. That's how we get down. All right. I got my good people here, Pamela, Autumn, T, hanging out for the last episode of the year. And we're going to get into it with this opening question for introductions, because, we're doing a recap. So for introductions, I want to know, what are you smoking and drinking, if anything? And I'm going to actually let Pamela jump on this first, because I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking already. So what are you smoking and drinking this year? And then what was the most impactful cultural moment for you this year? Thinking back through all the stuff.
Well, I feel like I've been talking a lot too, but here I am. So I'm smoking a variety of incense. I just bought a Copal, Copal, which is one of my favorite scents. So I have a couple of those. Y'all, I went to Kroger and found a gallon of apple cider. And when I tell you, I have been heating it and drinking it all week. So I have apple cider in Kristian's mug. And the most impactful moment for me is going to be Cat Williams. And not because it was like, woo, but because out of all the things that have happened this year, Cat Williams' name has continued to come up from January to December, just based on all the stuff that has happened in between. Culturally, Black people have blamed it all on Cat and how he opened the portal on Shannon Sharp's show. So yeah, Cat Williams' interview with Shannon Sharp is my top cultural moment based on how it impacted the culture all year.
Yeah, I think a whole lot of people will probably agree with you because that set this year off. It doesn't seem like that was like almost a year ago. It does not feel like that. I'm telling you, time is like moving real fast, real fast. All right, Rich Auntie, what about you? What you smoking and drinking, if anything? And then what was the most impactful cultural moment for you this year?
Rich Auntie reporting for duty. I am smoking a little John the Conqueror, Hi John the Conqueror incense. I just bought some new incense. It's like a black nag champa. So I'm really excited to try that out. I am drinking. Okay, so you know how in the fellowship hall people will be posting recipes. Shout out to Dewan. I made that drink. The name's a little risky. Let's talk about sex. It's Pussy Eater, but baby, the drink is bomb as hell. So I'd recommend y'all go back and find that recipe and make it for yourself because it's good. And what you want to say, Kristian? Go ahead.
I was about to say that drink, and I saw it in there too. And I was like, I'm down for the drink and the activity that it's named after. Huh?
I'll agree with you on that.
Come on in the room.
I'm with you when you're right.
Yeah.
We all said huh in unison, whether muted or not. Everybody said.
Oh my gosh. What else am I supposed to say?
So what was your biggest, most impactful cultural moment of the year? Like something that happened in the culture that just was like it sat with you or it hit you hard.
I think it's just the roaming Grim Reaper that has ravaged the Black community. I feel like our creative elders have left exponentially, and I don't know what to do with that because these are people who, we're adults, so we have a life to look back on. But I think about the people who were influential in shaping me as a thinker, as a learner, as a Black woman, as a cultural critic, like all the things we do on this show. Those people are leaving, and like someone said earlier, like it's making me like, what are we doing? Like, what do y'all know that we don't know? Because it's scary out here. So yeah, the death of our elders, from that transition from beloved elders to good ancestors. It just reminds you of the finiteness of life, because those are celebrities, but we've lost family members, we've lost friends. Like death has been busy this year, and sickness. So it's been a wild ride for 2024.
Absolutely. That was one of the reasons why I was like, yo, I gotta see Stevie Wonder this year. He can't come to Atlanta and I not see him because that's on my bucket list. And like the way people getting up out of here, I don't want Stevie to get out of here and I haven't seen him. Same thing with Earth, Wind, and Fire. I was like, I gotta see Earth, Wind, and Fire. So it just so happened that Stevie and Earth, Wind, and Fire came to Atlanta in the same month. So I was able to see both of them. But yeah, I feel you on that. AT&T. What you smoking and drinking this week? And if anything, what's the most impactful cultural moment for you this year?
Hello, everyone. It's AT&T, Tierney here. All right, so I have a cinnamon incense burning in the background, trying to, do all of the holiday smells and things around here. We all have our Christmas sweaters on. If you can't see us and you're only listening, it's giving holiday festivities. Well, Kristian has on white. He didn't follow instructions. But Autumn, Pamela,
I didn't know.
You was outside the group chat, but it's okay.
Oh.
Autumn, Pamela, and I have on Christmas attire. Anyways, and then my mug also says "Jingle All the Way," so it's very much giving the Christmas lady. Anyways, what I'm drinking is an apple cider margarita. So also apple cider, but margarita. It's actually really good. I discovered this recipe last year, and it's like my favorite thing to drink during the holidays. So you got the cinnamon going, got the apple cider margarita. And then if I think about the most impactful cultural moment, so it's kind of like a cultural moment, but a personal moment. So this year I discovered I was a rap girly. And so that has, it has shaped my entire year because I grew up in church. I was an R&B girly. I was a gospel girly. I'm a let's sing love songs. Let's, do the things. And so this year I discovered that I'm a rap girly. And so I was like, I went down to Missy Elliott rabbit hole. I went down to Trina rabbit hole. Meg and Glorilla do their things and give me my life. And so it's just changing the way I think about the things and engage in music and culture, because now when y'all be talking about the rap girlies, I be knowing what y'all be talking about. Okay. So that has been my cultural influence or reference for the year.
Yeah, because the rap girlies are taking over the rap game.
Period.
The hottest rappers out right now are all women for the most part,
Now.
maybe with the exception of Kendrick, Tyler the Creator.
Because baby, if you ain't on Doechii, where are you at?
Doechii is hot.
My God, the Tiny Desk. That's all I gotta say.
Come on.
It was so good. Oh, it was so good.
Jesus, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A masterpiece.
Can I tell you the truth? So I got exposed to Doechii not through her music, but she came up in my feed when she was she was dressed in something real revealing. I don't remember what it was, but it was she was just dressed in something real revealing, and I don't follow her. So when I saw it, I was like, okay, cool. And I was thinking that's not for me, right? Because that's not what I'm interested in. So I didn't think anything of it because I thought that was her persona based on that first interaction with her on social media, because I hadn't seen anything else. And then come to find out, that was just her on that particular occasion, but she dressed in all types of ways. But I hadn't seen her in any other context other than that. And I was thinking about that. Tell you what the algorithm know about me.
It also tells me that you're an old uncle because you judged her because of how she looked.
Yes.
She ain't for me. Was it when she had on the little boy shorts and the polo shirt? She was on the stage and she had on the knee highs with the heels.
Not you know what he like. You like, wait, I know what you like. Let me see.
Because I'm listening to him. I'm listening to him talk about, and based off of my first interaction with her off of social media, and I'm like, just based off of what she had on, you are officially an old uncle. Yeah. You said, yeah, you're an old uncle.
Yeah.
Because then we watched that Tiny Desk, and it was like, oh.
I'm gonna tell you who got me. It was the ecosystem. It was the faith community. In the God music group, somebody posted about the Tiny Desk, and I was like, I haven't gotten into Doechii yet. And I think it was Michaela. She was like, you should really check out Doechii, because people get an idea of what our music tastes are like, because we talk about it in the God music group. And she was like, I really think you would like her. I was like, all right, then let's check it out. And I put it in, and I was like, oh, she's dope. I like this. So yeah, Doechii. That's what's up. So for me, this week I've been smoking on the Holy Smoke Sticks. We just sent out a shipment to the people in our cigar tiers. So there were a couple left over for your boy. So I had that sweet Connecticut and that sweet Maduro this week. And just having a energy drink right now, because the day is long. And for me, all of the cultural moments that y'all mentioned are up there for me. Cat Williams, obviously major. I'm gonna bring another one into the mix though that some people may have forgotten about. Risa Tisa. Risa Tisa was a whole. That was this year.
Girl, don't it seem like 2 or 3 years ago?
That was this year.
Risa Tisa held me all. I cleaned up. I washed clothes. I did the dishes. The whole day was dedicated to all 50-something parts of whatever her story was. Yes, it was.
Let me tell you why it was impactful for me. Because I don't really get into I don't really get into people's stories like that. You know what I'm saying? That's not my thing. Pamela, she likes to follow personalities, celebrities, to kind of see like the story of their life and all of that stuff. Pamela will get hooked on somebody and like research their life story. And then some people just like to know what's going on with people in their lives. That's not the stuff that I really look at. So when I saw Risa Tisa, I was like, okay, like I heard about it. I was like, cool. Everybody's, you know, doing their thing, enjoying the Risa Tisa. Again, I was like, that's not for me. And then it just kept coming up and people kept telling me I need to watch it. And I was like, I'm not about to watch all of this. Yeah, I watched a good portion of it because what Risa Tisa showed me was like, oh, this is like a major issue that a lot of people deal with, but nobody talks about. So I was like, ooh, Risa Tisa just gave us a gift, because now we can talk about this thing using someone's experience. And we did a whole episode on it. It was a therapy and theology episode that Pamela and I did earlier this week. We talked about the difference between dating and courting, and it was an impactful time in the life of TFC and some of the things that we talked about this year. So yeah, Risa Tisa, my. All right. So it's the recap. This is how we gonna do the recap. Okay, it's been a great year for Holy Smokes, for the faith community. We've grown a lot this year, and I want to reflect on our top 3 episodes this year for this episode. All right, and we're gonna count down from 3 to 1. And for each episode, we're just gonna reflect on that topic. We're gonna get like a little clip from that episode. And then we're going to do a Reaching for the Stars segment based on each topic. So this is going to be a Reaching for the Stars round robin, basically. All right. So y'all ready? Y'all down for that? Y'all can handle it? Y'all good? All right. Episode number 3, our third most popular episode of 2024 is Bad Faith, The Rise of Christian Nationalism, featuring the unfit Christian, Danielle Thomas. All right. So that was like a really hot episode. And here's a clip in case you need a refresher of what happened on the Bad Faith episode. How many of y'all black churches was showing y'all Left Behind growing up?
I don't want everybody to vote. Elections are not won by a majority of people. They never have been from the beginning of our country, and they are not now. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the elections, quite candidly, goes up as the voting populace goes down.
So Paul Weyrich co-founded this. Who did he co-found it with? He co-founded it with Tim LaHaye. If you're like, dang, Tim LaHaye, that name sounds familiar. What do I know that name Tim LaHaye from? Tim LaHaye wrote the Left Behind series. So if any of y'all read these books, you were reading Christian nationalist indoctrination. And if you didn't read the book, I bet you saw this movie. This is a product of Christian nationalism. Now, how many of y'all black churches was showing y'all Left Behind growing up?
This started in 1980. I was born in 1982. This has been the entirety of my life. I remember riding in the car with my parents and they would be listening to Dr. Dobson on Focus on the Family. And now I'm like 42 years old, like, oh, you been a Christian nationalist since day one, bitch. Like, you was born into...
Yo. What's so funny about watching that clip is watching Autumn's reaction to it now, and it was identical to the reaction in real time. Like, I'm watching you in real time laugh the same way you were laughing.
Same reaction.
Yeah, it's so traumatic. Like, I mean, this process is like really healing for me. Like, that's one of the things I appreciate about the podcast. But yeah, that was my whole life. And even when you put them books, I had them books on my bookshelf, the whole fucking collection, until maybe 2017, because I started deconstructing in 2014. And I still have a lot of books that I shouldn't have on my bookcase, but I don't have them motherfuckers. And whenever I go to the thrift store, I buy them and throw them in the trash on the way out. I ain't even gonna lie. Them books be like $1. This is a contribution to somebody getting free, because the way the churches that I was involved in at that time in my life, they really acted like the Bible was literal. And these people were prophets of God writing whatever new words of God that were acceptable. And this is what was going to happen. We thought that shit was going to happen. Like rapture practice. One of my friends was coaching. They would just randomly shout out rapture practice. Everybody would start shouting. And I didn't even shout. I would be like, why are we doing this? Because you got to be ready. That anxiety. And that's why I'm an anxious mess. You jumpy because you think you're going to get raptured. And not in the good way.
That's real. And it's funny how all of that is tied together, right? Like this particular episode was about Christian nationalism, but it also pulled in the concept of the rapture because it's all tied together, right? The same people who indoctrinated you with the rapture are the Christian nationalists who are, now in the White House, as of the most recent election. And I mean, they were in there before, but now it's like they really have more of a grip, particularly with, the Project 2025 plans and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's all connected. And that's what I'm most proud of us for, the way that I believe we help people connect dots. Like I'm really proud of that, because that's like some of the feedback that we get most frequently. Yeah. So Bad Faith, The Rise of Christian Nationalism. If you haven't checked out that episode, it's one of the most popular. Make sure you check it out. And since we're on that topic of like Christian nationalism and fundamentalism and politics and social issues, we're going to stay on that same thread for this installment of
Reaching for the Stars.
All right. So, Sunshine Spectacles strikes again. For those who don't know who Sunshine Spectacles is, that's a little nickname that Laura gave to a Christian influencer named Tim Ross. And this is a recent clip that somebody sent me. And, I don't watch all the clips that people send me, but something told me to watch this one. And I kind of regret that I did, but I'm glad that I did too. It's kind of weird, because it's, I don't know. So here's Tim Ross with this white pastor named John Carter, who looks like, what's that guy that used to be the wrestler and he became like an actor? He was in he was in Knives Out, the second one. The one with Janelle Monáe.
That big white dude?
Yeah, what the
I don't know his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Tell me this dude don't look like him. Watch this clip. I'm sorry if you're listening, you can't see him. Go to YouTube. But tell me this dude don't look like him. Yeah, here's the clip. Tim Ross and John Carter talking about race.
Because black people think that the white man is the devil. Right? Like there's so many black Christians that like they don't have.
How many?
I don't know. Like I can't.
It's just like a common belief.
There are. I can't put a number to it. I can just say many. There are many black believing Christians with as much prejudice towards white people.
Sure.
As vice versa. And black people think because we were the persecuted in this country,
right, the minority,
that we can't be prejudiced and that we can't be racist.
That's an academic convention. That is not accurate.
Please elaborate.
Well, it's sort of like this idea that gender and biological sex are different. No one's ever thought that way for all of human history. A professor in the 1950s, a thought experiment guy, came up with this idea that maybe gender is just what you think it is. And then that took root in progressive academia. And now we're living with the lie that there are 98 genders.
All right,
how the fuck did we get there? How did we get there?
My Lord.
Yo, I was just about to say, all right, look. I was wondering the same thing. Like, how did you get from racial prejudice to the gender binary? And I was thinking they must have done this like on purpose. Like, this isn't really how the conversation went. They were trying to throw us off by like bringing these two together. And they got me because I was like, let me go to the actual episode and see how this went, and so I can understand how they cut this up. Y'all, they did not cut that up. That is exactly the sequence that conversation happened in. There was no edits to that part. He literally went from black people are racist to it's like the gender construct. What? And it wasn't even related. And I'm gonna get out the way when I say this. I have learned a lot of stuff from white people. Okay, there are a lot of white people who I have learned from. All right, so I acknowledge I can be taught by white people, but one thing a white person can never teach me is about my own black ass experience. Ain't no white person on this planet about to school me on my black ass experience. And Tim Ross is a clown for that. Sorry. If you like him, I'm sorry. That was some clown shit. Straight up.
Yeah, for everybody that has seen Django, what's his name? Tim reminds me of Steven. Steven was Samuel L. Jackson's character in Django. He was the loyal servant to the slave master who felt like he was better than all of the other blacks that were actually owned, even though he was a slave himself. It's like, if you are backed by fundamentalist white Christians who are anti-black, you are a pawn, sir. You are a pawn. And sitting on the couch with this white man, asking him to enlighten you about the way black people think and our experiences, baby, you one of the people Harriet would have left, okay? She wouldn't even woke you up out of your sleep. She'd have let you lay right where you were, and she would have left you on. She would have left him on purpose.
That part.
She would have shot his ass.
That
she was
part.
like, because you ain't about to mess it up for us.
Because I'm just trying to
life.
How you talking about? He doesn't know. And then my thought was, what does it benefit you to do that? What's the benefit for you when you do that? When you lick ass crack like that? What's the benefit?
Shots fired.
Listen, because you know I was looking for it. This took me a while to get to it.
So I want to know what black believing Christians mean. Are you believing that you're black? Are you believing that you're Christian? Like, what does that mean? What are you trying to say? What are you saying? What?
I don't know.
And there were so many what are you sayings, because he also said that black people think white people are the devil. And what black people? We're like these mass generalization statements, because a lot of these people who roll in these camps, they do the same thing in all of these videos. You make these massive generalizations, and this conversation was supposed to be organic, and per the video was, but they had to have a script. Just like there's no way that you go from those confusing, convoluted thoughts and you make up these lies, because they're not founded comments, and we're supposed to just believe that and take it as sound bites. I mean, it had so much cinema, the sound effects, the dramatic pauses, like that was some content. Someone is doing their job.
Yeah, it was so bad. Like I said, I went and looked at that segment of the pod, and I've never watched any long form content. Like I've never watched or listened to a whole episode of his podcast, because I only know about him because I do this work. Like I didn't know who he was until we started doing this work at the faith community, and then people started exposing me to him because of the negative impact his theology has had on their life. So then I was like, well, let me pay attention to this person who has been leading people down this path of obviously bootlicking and self-loathing bullshit. So that's how I got hip to him. And then I went and watched it, y'all. My head started hurting at a certain point. And I was only like 8 minutes in. 8 minutes, and I was like, I can't do this shit. I can't. No, go ahead.
I was just about to say, and then he went into this whole thing about how, Black people think that we can't be prejudiced. First of all, I need you to go do some research and understand the distinction between racism and prejudice. Because we can't be racist. We don't have any power to push anything forward, to take anything from anybody. Prejudices, everybody has prejudices. Everybody does about one thing or another. Like, you're missing the point because you confusing or equating the two. It's just like, wait a minute, who said that? I feel like Real Housewives of Atlanta. Who said that? Who said that? Didn't nobody say that?
Listen, nobody who's doing justice work or liberation work is working to make white people nice to us. Nobody cares about that shit. We're talking about systems of oppression. When we talk about racism, we're talking about a system of oppression, a power dynamic on a mass scale. No one cares about white people being nice to us on an individual basis. Nobody who actually is doing liberation work is like, yeah, if white people could just be nicer, then we could all get along. No, nigga, you're full of shit. Also, one more thing. Did y'all peep how he let that white man correct him in his identification of Black people as a persecuted group? He said, we see ourselves as like, the ones who are persecuted. And then the white dude said, minority. He said, yeah, minority.
Baby.
We. It was seamless. The correction was seamless.
And this is the reason why it's really important to me. And I'm going to just be selfish right here and talk about me. It's important for me to distinguish myself from people like Tim Ross because we got so much in common. We got the same aesthetic. We come from a charismatic background. We're in the same generation. We both hip hop, like all of that. So a lot of people have a hard time distinguishing between people who are so similar. And I need people to understand they not like us. They look like us, but their theology is trash. Absolute dumpster juice. Because that was insane. And oh, by the way, like I said, I watched that whole clip. They never came back to the racial part. He never actually explained the race part. He just went on into a conversation about trashing the gender spectrum. He just kept on going with that. And there's this thing on the like conservative right where their attack on transgender identity is rooted in demonizing the Kinsey scale. If you've never heard of the Kinsey scale, it's like this scale where you can kind of figure out where you are on the spectrum of sexuality. So they spend their time trashing that idea. And he said, nobody in human history has ever thought that there's more than two genders. It's like, bro, you talking about white human history? Because there is so much evidence all over the world in different cultures where they have had more than two genders in their context. So it's like, and that's the thing about fundamentalists. They say stuff with so much conviction and they be lying to your face. But they say it with conviction. They say it with charisma. They say it with passion, and then folk be like, man, they spitting. No, they not. No, they're not. They're not.
So this is like tangentially related, but something I've been spending a lot of my brain power thinking about. So I've been thinking a lot about the literacy crises that we currently have in America, and you talking about how people can't separate you from sunshine spectacles, and how people don't necessarily interrogate the information that they hear in these sound bites, is just really making me think about the future of theology and theological education. Because if we're not going to sit down long enough to read a book about anything, and we're only going to live our lives by sound clips and sound bites on the internet, what does that say for the state of the future? Right? So, like, across the spectrum. So we could talk about the state of the future theologically, like, for people who are people of faith, that's important. But what does that say about the state of the future across all areas of society? If people aren't, you won't even read a blog post, let alone a book. Like, I am concerned. I don't know what to do with this information. It be keeping me up. Like,
they won't even listen to a full-length podcast episode, because these niggas be in my comments all the time like, well, tell me about this. Oh, we did a whole episode on that. Well, why can't you just tell me? I don't owe you shit. Why I gotta tell you something I already published? What?
I am concerned.
Yeah. Anybody want to drop anything else before we move on out of this?
I was just going to co-sign because, I'm in a public school, and like the kids be in the hallway, all they want to do is make TikToks. They be like, my teacher boring. I'm like, but you on TikTok all day. Like, take your headphones out. Try to learn something. You're not even getting a whole book. Like, I had to read novels. We had summer reading projects. Y'all getting a paragraph, and you can't even sit still for 5 seconds to read 3 sentences. And this is high school. So yes, T, I echo your concern. It do keep me up at night. I be trying to give my kids little challenges, put them up on authors, but we live in a 15-second sound. No, I don't even think it's 15 seconds. What is it, 2.5? We live in a very minimal attention society, and it's escalating, because it's an algorithm. You're not even getting everything on that topic. You're getting what's been catered to you and your mindset. So how are you even learning how to think critically? How are you learning how to differentiate anything? How do you know what the truth is? My can't even answer that. And there's adults that can't either. So we need to be aware of it. But I love that about the faith community, that there's so many diverse perspectives. I learn multiple things new every day. And it really keeps me doing my work to see, like, where do you still need to dig deeper in your deconstruction? Like, where are you ableist? Where are you any type of phobic? Get your shit together,
Absolutely. The masses are drawn to spectacle over substance. Any day of the week. Spectacle over substance, style over substance, which is why we're so loud, because you draw people in with spectacle and give them substance. and part of my challenge with like people in progressive spaces, if they have this idea of like, well, God will provide, and it'll happen how it's supposed to happen. I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna just let it happen how it's supposed to happen. I'm gonna make some shit happen. Is how I look at it. You about to say something about it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, as I was listening to T and Autumn, I think that the sound bites have done the same thing that all of the other progressions have done for us. It has given us a quick fix. So like when we were growing up, our mamas and grandmamas warmed stuff in the oven and we had to wait for it. They cooked stuff on the stove and we had to wait for it. Then when we came along, we got microwaves. When our nieces and nephews came along, they got air fryers. So they don't know how to cook, right? So I think about this whole literacy thing in the same way. When I was coming up in school, not only did you have a summer reading program, but you had book clubs. And when you were in school, your teacher would also call your name and you would have to read out loud in front of everybody. But now that we have sound bites, you don't have to work. You don't have to do the work. Just like you don't have to fry that chicken on the stove with grease in a frying pan. You can put it in the air fryer and it's easy. So people look at these sound bites the same way that we look at the progress in all of our appliances. We look at efficiency. We look at what we can get the fastest, what we can get access to the fastest, what informs us the fastest, and what also helps us do the least amount of work. And if I can listen to 4 or 5 TikTok sound bites, then baby, I'm an expert. I ain't got to read shit. I ain't got to survey shit. I ain't got to look up shit because I done watched 5 people talk about it on TikTok. TikTok is the air fryer. Social media is the air fryer of information at this point. And nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to dig. Nobody wants to think critically because we have air fryers of information called social media. So that's where we all go and think we experts based off of that.
You better preach. Before we move on, this is one last thing I want to say. When he brought up the whole, that whole race thing, when the white dude was like, yeah, that's a construction. And he was like, so tell me what that means. Is what Tim said to him, like, explain it to me. This is basically how that white man responded when he changed the subject.
I mean, it means what it means.
I mean, it means what it means. So yeah, Tim Ross, we want you to know that you have been
Reaching for the stars.
That shit is so disappointing. So that was the segment for Bad Faith, the rise of Christian nationalism. All right, that was our 3rd most popular episode this year. Our 2nd most popular episode this year, which Rich Auntie alluded to earlier, was Deconstructing the Rapture. So here's a little clip from Deconstructing the Rapture.
This episode was not to eliminate anybody's hope. It was to eliminate somebody's anxiety. And rapture theology produces anxiety.
Yes.
But eschatology should produce hope. All of this is conjecture. We don't know any of this for certain. And the truth of the matter is that this theological uncertainty is what really gives us hope. The only thing that I get from rapture theology, whether Christ is coming in person or whether Christ is coming back through us, the only thing I get from this is that redemption is scheduled and that it does not matter how long you are in hurt or in pain or in disarray, that one day all of that will dissipate and you will find yourself more whole than you were before.
If you want to see the rest of this video and join hundreds of others, we don't need that part of it. What we needed in response to what he just said was this. Myron get on here and be preaching, don't he?
And I know you be editing the dollar jars out, like when you make the clips, but I was like, you can't be saying all them words. You can't be using all them words.
Right. I understand. I totally understand. So yeah, Deconstructing the Rapture, like make sure you check that out. We got deep, Myron the Mystic was on that one. Tish Dixon Williams, Her Grace was on that show, and Nikki the Anchor was on that. What was it, Nikki the Anchor? I think it was Nikki the Anchor who was on that show as well. I believe so. But we had a good time nonetheless. So kind of staying on that topic. And Yeah, we'll still. Look, this next video, I don't know if I would call it a reaching for the stars. Y'all can tell me what y'all think. I don't agree with this creator who made this video, but I'm not sure if I would call it a reaching for the stars. Y'all can tell me. So I forget this young lady's name. She's on TikTok. People been tagging me in a couple of her videos, and this ties in with the whole deconstructing the rapture because it's about end times, and rapture is an end time theology, and she's talking about Jesus and his relationship to the end times, to the apocalypse. And her point is that basically Jesus wasn't a socialist revolutionary, he was an apocalyptic preacher. And this is her whole rationale. I think it's fascinating, even though I really don't agree with her. So I want to hear what y'all think, because this was also shared in the ecosystem like a few weeks ago, and some of the members of the ecosystem already discussed it. So I forget her name, but here it is.
Progressive Christians, I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this, but Jesus wasn't a revolutionary socialist. He was an apocalyptic preacher. I know, but it's true, okay? You have to stop trying to fit the cylindrical peg of Jesus into the square hole of revolution, because Jesus was an apocalyptic preacher. He thought the world was going to end soon, and by soon I'm talking maybe months. Everything he says is consistent with an apocalyptic preacher. That's why he never encouraged the poor and oppressed to rise up, did he? He did the opposite. He said that if someone slaps you, if someone abuses you, you let them slap and abuse you. Why? Because God's coming back. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. That's why he did warn the, oppressors and the wealthy, woe is you, judgment is coming, not because poor people were going to rise up and demand their rights and autonomy, but because God was going to come back and save all of us. Soon, tomorrow, even. Why do you think Jesus never, ever preached extensively on one of the most pervasive, terrible, exploitative systems of his time, which was Roman slavery? He never told his apostles to try and dismantle Roman slavery. He never told slaves that they should rise up and demand their freedom. He did the opposite because he was an apocalyptic preacher. And if you are looking at the results of the election and you're surprised, how could all of these people not care about structural change? How could they be okay with all of this short-term exploitation? I'm not saying that evangelicals don't ignore the words of Jesus, because they absolutely do. But I also have to say that their priorities are more aligned with his than you might think. Because if you think the world is going to end tomorrow, why would you care about environmental justice? Why would you care about trying to change the way you've always lived? Unless maybe you think you're afraid of going to hell, right? I was this progressive Christian for so long, trying to make Jesus my new revolutionary socialist hero as my own morals progressed into wanting to structurally change all of these systems of exploitation. But the more honest I was in my reading of the Gospels, the more I realized that I was trying to change Jesus into something he wasn't, just so I could keep him. And I'm not saying you need to give up your love for Jesus. I am saying you need to start being honest with yourself and stop being surprised when Christianity falls short of your new, mature moral compass.
I also want to point out that we did an episode called The Elitism of Deconstruction. So I want you to go back and listen to that episode in relationship to that clip, because it was very elitist. It was like, hey guys, hate to break it to you. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. My whole thing is, why can't Jesus be both? Why does it have to be a either or? Why can't it be you know, he was an apocalyptic preacher and a socialist revolutionary, which I'm not really concerned with either, but I think there's evidence for both. And I will say this. Let me say this. People don't get crucified for being apocalyptic preachers. I've never seen an apocalyptic preacher get crucified just for preaching about the apocalypse. So, you know, there's that. What y'all think?
What was the point of her video? Like, where are we going? Where have we been? What is the point?
I don't know.
I was just trying to find the point.
I agree with you, T, because my only reaction was like, okay, girl, like,
and
why did you say this? What precipitated this? What point are you making? Because this is just word salad. You're talking in a weird ass voice. You're not making any sense. You're kind of making sense, but not really. It just didn't do what it was supposed to give. It's like someone in the comments said, she thought she ate. That's why I was annoyed. You're talking in a weird voice and you thought you ate, but it didn't make the sense that she thought it did. Because like you said, it's just textbook binary thinking. First of all, why are you on the internet telling me what I should believe about Jesus?
Isn't that the shit you just left? Didn't you just leave? Ain't that what you're talking about? Didn't you just leave a place where somebody told you what to think and they told it to you like there were no other options, like it was gospel? I'm sorry, Autumn. I'm sorry. She just irritated the hell out of me.
Keep going, because that's like it was too much. It was just too much. And I hate when Black women be loud and wrong on the internet. Because I'd be like, we is all rooting for you, girl, but no.
And don't be loud and wrong and whisper. Like what is this like? I'm not intimidating, soft, look at all the books behind me, Jesus-y voice. Like, don't be
sounding
loud and
like
wrong
you
and whisper.
Sounding like you auditioning for a part on Grey's Anatomy. Please get out of my face. Because just because you deliver your dogma softly doesn't mean it's not dogma. That's the problem. Just because you whispering and clutching your pearls and sounding desperate like you trying to save us all, that don't mean it's not dogma. It's still dogma. And the shit you just left, the way that's perpetuated is the same thing you just got on TikTok and did. You just got on TikTok and took what you believe and made it what we should all believe. And then you talked in this very condescending tone, like something was wrong with us if we didn't believe it. Girl, please take your audition monologue somewhere else. Please go somewhere with that. Go somewhere with that, because you just repeating the cycle. I don't have time for things to be dressed up as if they're different and if they're groundbreaking when it's just the same stuff. You didn't make no sense. Your words didn't connect no dots, and you trying to deliver something like your word is the only option. I need you, everybody, sit down, calm down. Everybody, calm down.
Yeah, exactly. And it ties in to what Autumn was talking about with the binary thinking. Like, if you don't deconstruct how you view the Bible, then you'll create the same cycles that you just got out of, or that you thought you got out of, to where you're thinking that, you know, your moral compass now makes you elite. Like, oh, I've outgrown Jesus morally and y'all should too. That was so interesting. And the thing about it is, like, again, I don't need Jesus to be perfect. I've preached a message about how Jesus fucked up something and called it holding Jesus accountable. So I don't think Jesus is beyond making mistakes. And there are many times when I read Jesus's words and I'll be like, Jesus, what the hell were you talking about? Like, there's some parables. It's like, nigga, you're not even making sense. And the thing about it is, like, Jesus also, even Jesus just in the scriptures, is not a static human being. So I agree. There's a lot of apocalyptic stuff in there, but there's also like revolutionary stuff in there as well. Because Jesus came out the gate day one. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, for God has anointed me to preach good news to the poor, healing to the sick, sight to the blind, and freedom for the oppressed, freedom for the oppressed, releasing of the prisoner. Like, that is what he introduced his ministry as. And then he also cared about economic exploitation, which is why he went into the temple and he flipped the tables of the money changers and he drove them out because of how they were exploiting people economically. And when he taught the disciples how to pray, he said, say, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And when he did talk about the end times, the apocalypse, judgment day, he said, you're going to be judged based on how you treated people when they were hungry, when they were thirsty, when they were sick, when they were in prison, when they were seeking asylum. This is all like revolutionary stuff within his context. But if you remove him from his context and you just think, oh, well, he didn't in the scriptures push back against Roman slavery, so he's not a revolutionary. It's like, damn, do you not appreciate context at all? And I'm not saying he shouldn't have said anything about Roman slavery, but don't erase everything about him to lean into your one theory that you now preach as gospel. Like, just chill, bro. Chill, sis. Chill.
And people have been thinking that the world was going to end since there were people.
Yeah.
Like, when, you know, when it went from 19 something to 2000, the people thought the world was going to end. And I now think the world is going to end because global warming is kicking our behinds. Okay. It's hot outside. I feel like Earth is going to quit on us. But that doesn't mean that I don't care about a future, that I'm not trying to do work now in the event that there is a future. And so you sitting here saying that there was this one specific thing that Jesus didn't do doesn't mean that Jesus wasn't also concerned about the people that were going to come until the end of the world. Like, you
yeah, the tone of this conversation tells me that this definitely was
reaching for the stars.
Yeah, because what everything y'all said, particularly the condescending tone, that was the thing. I was just looking at her like, you shouldn't talk with so much conviction about your theory as if it's gospel truth. I respect your theory, but like, don't present it like, oh, you poor misinformed Christians. Oh, your mature moral compass will not allow for Jesus anymore. It's like, if you moved on from Jesus, congratulations. That's what's up. Live your life. Do your thing. I mean, and do it big. But don't talk down to people who still identify with Jesus as a model or as somebody that we can look to for inspiration. That's not cool.
It was real. If you like it, I love it. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And everybody don't have to be Christian. Everybody don't have to believe in Jesus, but you don't have to do this condescending video and voice and approach and like perspective. Like, if you don't want to rock with Jesus no more, that's cool. That's your business. But everybody doesn't have to believe the same thing.
Yeah. Cause I ain't trying to convince nobody. Let me tell you something. People see my content and think I'm trying to get them saved. Like, you need to come. I have never told anybody on any of my content, you need to get saved and come to Christ. The doors of the church are now open. Like, even when we have worship, it's not an invitation for you to come and accept Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior. That's never what we've invited people to do. So it's like, you know, miss me with the whole, all of that. Yeah. All right. So we're down to the last one. Top 3 episodes of the year. So number 3 was Bad Faith, The Rise of Christian Nationalism. Number 2 was Deconstructing the Rapture. And I bet y'all can't guess what the number 1 episode of the year was. I bet y'all can't guess.
Drum roll, please.
Brrr. We need to get an alarm with a drum roll. It was Black Women in African Spirituality 7. So obviously that's the most popular topic in the history of Holy Smokes. It's the only topic we've done 7 installments of. And every time we do one, as soon as it's over, when is the next one? We've actually started a digital community just based on Black women in African spirituality. For the women who are a part of that group within our ecosystem, so many of them say it's their favorite group in the ecosystem. So it's a very important topic in this space. And here's a clip, because on that episode we had Auntie Mazda Miles as our guest. And here's a little clip from Black Women in African Spirituality 7.
Conjure means to call up spirits. And if y'all believe that the Holy Ghost is the only thing moving in the Church of God in Christ, you are sadly mistaken. And so the Church of God in Conjure taught me how to call down the spirit and the spirits to get the work done. The reason hoodoo was not a difficult transition is because I've been doing it all my life. My journey of deconstruction from the church in hoodoo, realizing I've been hoodooing basically my whole life. I call it not the Church of God in Christ, but the Church of God in Conjure, because baby, they taught me. I am also an initiated Ianifa. You know, the Church of God in Christ is where I learned to pray through, to move in the spiritual realm, where I learned literally to conjure.
There it is. Yes, Mazda, listen. We're going to have Mazda back for more episodes. Please believe she will be back for more episodes. We've been trying to work it out, but you know, schedules is just difficult to get everybody on point together with the schedules because, you know, Mazda is also a part of our community. So, you know, for the people who are wondering, will I be accepted at the faith community if I am initiated in the ATR? Yeah, we got hoodoo practitioners here. We got Ianifas here. We got people who practice Yoruba spirituality, all of that. They're all up in the place because, you know, that's the kind of faith community that we are, which is why when I had the vision for the faith community, I knew the name needed to be generic because I didn't want people to be able to pinpoint what type of community it was just based on the name. Because if I would have called this Greater Mount Moriah Christian Church, New Mount Zion Bible Believing Church.
Why is that what came to mind? Like, that's
my Lord. My Lord.
Ciao.
Second Greater Mount Pilgrim.
Mount Caramel.
Yes.
All right. So as y'all know, we are very passionate about embracing and honoring African spirituality in this space because that's where we come from as a people. And we talk a lot about the connection between the Black church experience and indigenous African spiritualities. So that's something that matters to us. And for this last installment of
Reaching for the Stars,
we're going to talk about a Pentecostal preacher who decided to get up in the pulpit and just demonize African spirituality. I don't understand why these niggas feel the need to do this over and over again, but here we go. Brandon Jacobs, he's a Pentecostal preacher who, here it is.
This genre of Christianity, we're mixing Bible with sage and witchcraft and all type of demonic stuff. I have never seen it before. This genre of Christianity wants prophecy, and we want to interpret what your birthday sign is. Y'all don't want to have my kind of church. And I'm going to teach on this foolishness we're embracing, because what you don't know is when you tap into that stuff, you open up your heart to witchcraft and curses. When you call yourself a believer and you're embracing a zodiac sign, you open yourself up to a curse. So don't get mad at me when you embrace a zodiac sign and don't embrace scripture and curses are on your life. You're reading the stars and you need to be reading your Bible. You interpreting the moon and you need to be reading your Bible. That will bring a curse on your life, and then you want the church to pray it off of you.
Yeah.
Boo. Tomato, tomato, tomato.
I just want to know what the man of God gonna preach for Christmas. Because he can't talk about the wise men. He can't talk about how they found baby G. He can't talk about none of that. He can't talk about what they brought as gifts. He can't talk about how they found him and what they fought. Because if we're going to demonize all of the incorporations and all of the, the intersections of spiritual, then they never found Jesus. They didn't find him. They didn't because they didn't have GPS and they didn't have Siri. So how did they get there? They didn't have dogs to track him out and smell his mom and daddy. So weren't they following the stars and the moon?
But those were authorized stars. That's the
listen. And I have
get out of here. Please get out of here.
I also have such an issue with the fact that we always need to be superior to everything else. It's the binary thinking for me. It's either got to be this or it's got to be nothing at all. So you can't read your Bible and get fulfillment in other areas of spirituality. It's got to be Christianity, because if it's not Christianity, then you're dealing in with demonic forces. And for us to spend so much talking about curses and cursing, we do so much cursing people from the pulpit. Mm-hmm. We do so much casting out how people are going to be cursed and their lives are going to be cursed and they're going to be attached to demons because you don't think this thing that we're practicing is superior. I have an issue with that. I really, really have an issue with that.
And I have an issue with you telling me to read the Bible, my Bible, but you clearly don't read yours because you're demonizing burning sage. The Levitical priesthood was burning all kinds of incense. Y'all want to talk about crystals as if it's witchcraft, but the Levitical priesthood had it all over their literal garments that they went in to praise the Lord before they was doing burnt offerings. So you don't know nothing about the Bible that you're telling us to be obsessed with. That's one thing. When I started deconstructing, we would have Bible study, and my pastor, he had this little tagline, and it was like, the only way to read the Bible is if you read the Bible, right? Everybody would say it in that voice every week, but I was like, sitting in the classes like, are y'all really reading the Bible? You can't be. You can't be reading and teaching anything that you don't know about. Because yesterday when I was doing this Bible study time that you said I needed to do to be holy, I read about Exodus 28 when they was doing all the things that I already do that y'all is telling me is demonic, but it's bringing me closer to God. No, I rebuke that.
And when
hold up a second. Let me, because she need to get something for that.
Hey, me.
Yes.
Yeah, and when Jesus was born, they didn't bring Jesus Bibles.
Mm-mm.
They brought frankincense and myrrh and oils and all of these other things as gifts. So I'm gonna read the Bible and I'm gonna read the stars. I'm gonna read the Bible and I'm gonna read the moon. Like I don't understand.
Here, and I'm gonna say this as somebody who doesn't do astrology, tarot cards, and doesn't do moon work, right? Because that's not a part of my personal practice. And Pamela's always been fascinated with the moon. So, I feed her fascination. I've bought her books about the moon. Anytime there's something going on with the moon, I send it to her because I know how fascinated she is. But I'm going to tell you something that blessed me on just a logical, intellectual level about the moon, right? Because obviously there's something spiritual there, but I'm really drawn to like logic and intellect. And somebody said in my comments on TikTok, they said, if the moon can have that much of an impact on the tide of the ocean, and I'm 90% water, how could the moon not have an impact on me? And I said, you know what? Well, damn. And because it was like, I don't think about the impact of the moon on me, But that right there said, even though I'm not thinking about the impact of the moon on me, that don't mean it's not impacting me.
Let me tell you something. When I was out doing community-based mental health services, there was a little thing that me and all my therapist colleagues and friends had among us when the moon was full. We all knew that our phones would be ringing off the hooks with all types of mental health crisis. And the crazy thing is, I used to think it was a myth until I really started working out in the field and paying attention to the moon and how many people I had to de-escalate, how many situations I had to de-escalate when there was a phase of the full moon. I also had a boyfriend in college who worked at the mental health hospital. He would also talk about what would happen on the floor during a full moon cycle. So if you think that the moon does all of these things and we just stand here excluded, like, oh, we so high and mighty.
And BJ said it in the comments, law enforcement too. That in the law enforcement space, when the moon is full, they know some shit about to be going down. And then my other question is, I want fundamentalists to tell me, how do y'all define demonic? Like in tangible terms, how do you define it? Because it can't be based on the fruit of the practice. It can't be. Because you're just making shit up. Like, is it demonic if it's not Christian? Is that it? Because I'm more interested in shared values than I am shared beliefs. It's a whole lot of people who claim they believe in Jesus. I don't agree with much of anything that they say. So how do y'all define demonic? Because you call everything demonic you don't like. Is that what it is? If Christians don't like it, it's demonic? Because it's the most simpleton shit I've ever heard in my life. Oh, it's demonic. And again, this is how religion makes meaning for people. I talked about this in the pre-show at length. He said in the video, this is why y'all having all these problems, and then want us to pray it off of you. So again, we all have struggles in life. We all have challenges in life. We all suffer. We all get sick. We all lose loved ones. Most of us go through financial struggles. And what religion does, particularly fundamentalism, it makes meaning for you. So if you're having the inevitable challenges in your life that you are probably going to have anyway, it must be because you're doing tarot. When you was going to have that problem anyway. Because doesn't the Bible say he causes it to rain on the just and the unjust? So how are you calling people just and unjust based on the rain when your Bible says that it rains on the just and the unjust?
Yeah, I think mainstream and popular Christianity uses the word demonic the same way it uses the word sin. It don't have no definition. It just like to throw it at stuff that it doesn't understand and that is unknown and unfamiliar territory. And so anytime you ask somebody to define sin, they look at you like, oh, well, a sin is a sin. And so anytime you ask somebody what anything demonic is, they tell you, oh, demonic is demonic. Like you know what demonic is. It means what it means, but does it really? So they're used in very similar ways.
Absolutely. So, Brandon Jacobs, we want you to know you have been
reaching for the stars.
I just want fundamentalist Christians to leave people the fuck alone. That's all I be asking. You can do whatever the hell you want to do in your church. Just leave people the fuck alone. Like, if you want to tell people in your congregation that, whatever you want to tell them, but, stop making these damn clips where you demonizing everybody that's not a Christian. That's so fucking corny. And I hate that shit. All right. What words of encouragement do we want to leave people at the end of the year?
Right. Bring it back, because I was about to go right off after you.
Baby, let me tell you how you set that up. I was about to go in. I'm so glad you pulled that back because
All right. Let's leave the people with some encouragement. It's the end of the year. It's been a great year for us. Those are our top 3 episodes. Make sure you go check them out. And I just want to give everybody an opportunity to share some, words of wisdom or encouragement or inspiration or reflection as we close out this year. Because 2025 is going to be challenging. That inauguration is coming up January 20th or something like that. I don't know what day is coming up, but it's going to be challenging for marginalized groups. It's going to be challenging for conscious citizens. And I want to repeat what I said earlier because it blesses me to that extent. Something my mom told me, that you've been in the presence of God when you feel better about yourself as a result. And I just want you to find yourself in places that make you feel better about yourself. Take in the content that makes you feel better about yourself, that reinforces for you that you are the image of God, that you are enough, that you don't need some source outside of you to come save you because you are enough. So yeah, that's what I want people to know. You've been in the presence of God when as a result you feel better about yourself. All right, let's keep it going. Let's go in order. Rich Auntie, Pamela, and T. Just lead the people with something.
What I would leave everybody with is it's okay to slow down. And sit with yourself and go through the tensions of what deprogramming, decolonizing, and deconstructing look like. And it's a wild journey because, some days you think you've arrived and then other days you're just dragged back to the pits of hell. But it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So I would just say be okay with slowing down. My life was very much slowed down outside of my control this year. And I felt myself wanting to rush back. And I was like, why are you rushing? What is it serving you? So it's really allowed me to just sit down and enjoy the littlest of things. And I've been grateful that even though this was a very challenging year physically, this was a very inspiring year for me mentally. And usually my mental health is extremely frayed. And I feel like that's a direct correlation to the community because I've had people who I've never met in real life, but I know through our ecosystem that have checked in on me and made sure I was okay and sent me words of affirmation when I may have wanted that from my family, but my sister got a little monster. She a busy mom now. She can't always text me her little sister pep talks. So I just wanted to shout out TFC because it's such an awesome space in our ecosystem. And I love y'all for how you blessed my life this year.
Shout out to the community. That's what community is about. People have said to me, how can you pastor a space that doesn't meet in person? How do you touch the people? How do people build community? And I'll be like, yo, you have no idea. These folk being here really supporting each other, making relationships, becoming friends, traveling together, meeting up, community. I love it. That's what it's all about. Pamela.
Listen, I've been sitting here thinking about how to wrap this up with a word, and I don't know if I have any because 2024 has been so crazy. I just keep thinking about my grandmother saying, take it a day at a time. So what I'm gonna leave people with is a song because I don't think I sang in a few episodes. So one day at a time, sweet Jesus, that's all I'm asking of you. Give me the strength to do everything that I have to do. Yesterday's gone, sweet Jesus, and tomorrow may never be mine. Lord, for my sake, teach me to take one day at a time. My grandmother used to sing that song all the time. And so all I'm saying is just take it a day at a time. And while you're taking it a day at a time, give yourself grace for each of those days. That's all I got.
Girl, I know you better sing.
The enemy thought he had me, but Jesus said I am his, and he is mine. Glory, hallelujah.
Yes, yes. You stayed on key though, babe. You stayed on key when you sang. T, what you want to leave with the people for 2024?
Yeah, so there are a few things coming up, but I think they're all connected. And so thinking about our new ancestor, Nikki Giovanni, I saw a clip of her floating around the internet, as a lot of clips have been floating around the internet. And they asked, I don't remember exactly what they asked her, but basically what she was talking about in the video was saying that she felt like people in the younger generations didn't like themselves. And she was saying that, you know, when you wake up in the morning and you look at yourself in the mirror and you have to say, I love you. Like, I think you're beautiful. Shout out to you. Whatever your affirmations are, whatever your things are, she said, when I wake up in the morning, I tell myself that and I like myself. And she said, and I feel like sometimes in y'all's generation, she said, y'all don't like yourselves. Y'all don't, you don't like you, the person you spend all day with and the most time with. You don't actually like it. And so as I think about 2025 and all that will come with 2025, wanting to encourage people to sit with themselves and think about what it means to be with you, to like you, to be a person whose company you enjoy. And so leaning into figuring out what all that looks like. And it made me think of a question my best friend asked me. We were having a conversation and she said, well, Tierney, it sounds like you have to decide whose opinions are important to you. And so when I think about what it looks like to lean into liking yourself and whose opinions are important to you as you think about closing out this year and starting a new year, it's like find your people. Whose opinions are important to you? Whose opinions aren't important to you? Do you like yourself? Who in your community is dropping seeds that are causing you to question whether you do or don't like yourself after you've done all of your work, right? And so, really, just sitting with you and liking you and being with you as the world is going to do whatever it is that the world is going to do in this political climate and season and all of those things. Taking a step back and being someone whose company you enjoy. So that's what came up for me as we all do our own work and sit in our own processes and think about our own experiences.
All right, y'all. Lord willing and the creek don't rise. We're gonna be back in 2025 to do it all over again. So we'll be right back. We'll be right back here next year, deconstructing harmful theology and building beloved community one cigar at a time. Peace out.
Peace and blue magic hair grace, y'all.